I've been north and I've been south and I've been east and west. I've been just a rolling stone. Yet there's one place on this earth I've always loved the best. Just a little town I call my own. Dublin can be heaven with coffee at 11 and a stroll in Stephen's Green. There's no need to worry, there's no need to hurry. You're a king and the lady's a queen. Grafton Street's a wonderland, there's magic in the air. There are diamonds in the lady's eyes and gold dust in her hair. And if you don't believe me, come and meet me there in Dublin on a sunny summer's morning. Now I've been here and I've been there, I've sought the rainbow's end, but no crock of gold I found. Now I know that come what may, whatever fate may send, here my roots are deep in friendly ground. Dublin can be heaven with coffee at 11 and a stroll in Stephen's Green. There's no need to worry, there's no need to hurry. You're a king and the lady's a queen. Grafton Street's a wonderland, there's magic in the air. There are diamonds in the lady's eyes and gold dust in her hair. And if you don't believe me, come and meet me there in Dublin on a sunny summer's morning. And if you don't believe me, come and meet me there in Dublin on a sunny summer's morning. If I were a lady, I'd wear a hat that all the street would be looking at. And I'd have a lady's maid, do you mind, to lace and button me dress behind. A dress that was made of fine sateen, none of your bits of bombazine, and the girls with envy would grind their teeth when they'd hear it rustling underneath. If I were a lady, but then I'm not. This shawl is the decentest thing I've got. If I were a lady, I'd drive to the play and I'd look through me opera glasses and say, I've seen this silly review before, the leading lady's an awful bore. Let's all get up and she sings her song and go and eat cakes in the restaurant. Then a powder puff on me nose I'd dab and I'd drive off home in a taxi cab. If I were a lady. But then I'm not. A pass to the gallery's all I've got. If I were a lady, though, like a regular swell, with a hairy boa and a silk umbrella, it's me would walk into Shelburton's Hotel and order me dinner. Some pork and beans, and whatever you've got in them soup tureens, both the sweets, and a hunk of cheese, and a bottle of porter, please. Then I'd call for me bill and settle in it. I'd tip the waiter a threepenny bit, if I were a lady. But then I'm not. My dinner comes out of a stir-about pot. Still, there's a lot of show and sham, and sure, maybe I'm better the way I am.
You don't know me. I'm a Dublin kid. Spent my early years there. Yes, I did. Grew up beside the Grand Canal. Will I tell you a story? Yes, I shall. See, Portobello Road, that was where I grew up. Here it is, the little house on Portobello Road. Now, on the other side of the road was the banks of the Grand Canal. Let me tell you a story about the time I tried to drown myself in that same canal. Well, this is if the woman who brought me home to my mum sopping wet is to be believed. I seen him, missus, she said. Up under the bridge there at Haddle's Cross it was, where it was good and deep. No reeds along the side, nothing in the way, just a straight drop down, and God between us and all harm, in he went, feet first, the douche. And here we have it, the scene of the crime, the canal and the bridge. Now, the other women who had followed us to the front door were behind us now, nodding their heads and clicking in sympathy. Stripping the clothes off me, my mum scrummed so hard with the towel that I felt raw. "Oh, dear God in heaven," she said. "Why did you do such a thing?" Even if I tried to answer, I wouldn't have been able to, because between the scrubbing and the cold, I was shaking so much, my teeth were going like a Spanish dancer's clicker, so they were. "Sure, maybe it was an accident," said another woman. "No, definitely." This was the first woman again. "I seen him pick the deep spot and jump in. There was no accident. He was trying to off himself, the poor little beggar. Whatever's weighing on his little mind." And she gave my mum a funny sideways look. Another woman said, no. She knew the family, and there was nothing to be suspicious about, as we were all good living Catholics, so we were, thanks be to God and His Holy Mother. The first one said, "Oh, well, I'm telling you what I've seen, that's all." And lucky there was a man cycling past who jumped off of his bike at me scream, grabbed the youngster by the collar when he came up spluttering, and hauled him onto the bank in a flash. The woman who knew we were all good living Catholics had taken me by one hand, and the woman who knew what she'd seen, that was all, had taken me by the other. And between the two of them, I squelched homeward, slithery, sockless feet slimy inside wet sandals. The crowd of women and children that had followed us along the street had got larger with each splashy step. What had started out with just a couple of the concerned was a cavalcade of the curious by the time I got to the house. Everybody clumped around the front door, not sure if the excitement was over yet or not, and maybe they should hang around for a little bit longer, just in case. My mum, she wasn't having any of this. She thanked them very much and said firmly that I was going to be fine as soon as she got me dried off. "And excuse me now," she said, and she started to swing the door closed. Before it closed all the way, though, the first woman said, "Jesus, did you see the poor little beggar in his pelt? Do you know what I'm going to tell you? I've seen more meat on an X-ray." My mum gave the door an extra push that closed it with a bang. Now, putting a match to the fire, she asked hopefully, did you trip or what?" I shook my head, watching my goose-pimpled knees like sucked gobstoppers go through the spectrum from orangey purple back to their more usual pink. "You jumped in then?" I nodded. "On purpose?" I nodded again. "Oh, Holy Father, why? Why, in God's name, why?" It had made perfect sense to me at the time, but now that I was being cross-examined, I felt the logic stripping away from me. And there didn't seem to be any point in trying to explain that I just wanted to walk around down there among the fishes and the reeds, that I wanted to see what the fishes' world looked like, that I wanted to saunter out to the middle where it was real deep and see what I could find in the mud. The truth was, believe it or not, the truth was I hadn't expected to get wet at all. This was before my clumsy pal Jacko had started demonstrating by tripping in every other day that canal water was indeed wet and went all the way to the bottom. See, what I thought was that what I could see, the top, that was all there was to it, just that thin, wet skin like a sheet of liquid glass. And if I could get past the top fast enough, I figured I'd hardly get wet at all, no more than a summer shower. And that was why I needed the deep water, not to off myself, but so that I could get through that thin skin quickly enough without lingering on the top where the damp was. The fire was coming along nicely now, and I was comfortably warm in the big towel, and the whole thing was far too complicated to explain, especially as it didn't make much sense to myself anymore. I'll give it one more go, and then I'd leave it at that. "I seen the big reddy gold roach swimming under the bridge, and I wanted to catch it," I said. Well, if this wasn't exactly the truth, neither was it a complete lie. It was just that seeing the roach had made me want to look at things from its point of view and to ask if it was made of real gold, and was that why you never saw roaches near the water's edge, where they might be caught in somebody's fishing net because they were so valuable? Maybe 2 6 an ounce? My mum seemed satisfied enough with his explanation. Well, anyway, she didn't keep on going on about it. She just told me to stay away from the deep water under the bridge and to stick to the little pinkeens near the bank across the road from our house in future. Well, she didn't have to tell me that. Like, I wouldn't be trying that experiment again in a million years, I can tell you. But even though I learned something about the canal that was probably useful to know, I was a little disappointed too. It was as though the canal had somehow let itself down. I'd lied to me, had made itself out to be something grander than it actually was. Now, I knew there was nothing special about the canal water at all. It was just like the plain, ordinary, common or garden tap water in a scullery, so it was. Ah, yes. Those were the days when cars were few and bikes were many, when Nancy Ball sweets were 10 a penny, when roads were safe to cycle along. Those were rare old times, the times long gone. Ring a rosy, as the light declines, I remember Dublin City in the rare old times.
Gin a body, meet a body, coming through the rye. Gin a body, greet a body, need a body cry. Ilka lassie has her laddie, name they say hi. Yet all the lads they smile at me when coming through the rye. Gin a body, meet a body, coming frae the tune. Gin a body, kiss a body, need a body froon. Ilka lassie has her laddie, name they say hi. Yet all the lads they smile at me when coming through the rye. Among the train there is a swain I dearly love myself, but what's his name or where's his hame I didna care to tell. Ilka lassie has her laddie, name they say hi. Yet all the lads they smile at me when coming through the rye. La 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 la.
When I was a young child growing up in Regina in the 50s, my religion was Catholicism, and Catholicism was simply there. It was not the only religion. A Baptist minister lived next door. My best friend was an Anglican. The neighbors across the street were Lutherans. There were 2 Jewish boys my own age I sometimes played games with, and a Christian Science lady who often paid me to run errands. But Catholicism encompassed me as natural a force as water, air, earth, and fire. It was tactile, sonorous, elemental, and by turns comforting or threatening. My father pasted a scroll to our front door proclaiming, "The family that prays together stays together." It was a badge announcing our faith to postmen, milkmen, breadmen, and Fuller brush salesmen. Our immediate neighbors needed no telling. Every Friday they could smell fish frying. Every Sunday morning they could see all of us turning out in our best clothes for Mass and communion at Holy Rosary Cathedral. Few neighbors rose early enough to see my father and me making that same journey to the cathedral on weekday mornings. I remember it best in a Saskatchewan autumn. The alarm at 5:45, out of bed, onto cold, creaking floors to the bathroom to brush teeth with Pepsodent toothpaste, taking care not to swallow water and inadvertently break my fast. Dressed, protected against the pre-sunrise chill in my windbreaker, I let myself out the front door and breathe in the wonderful smell of fallen, rotting leaves and wait for my father to finish shaving. He joins me, Morocco-bound Daily Missal in one hand, and we walk together, his other hand in mine, scrunching leaves underfoot through a tunnel of autumn-bared trees and deep blue sky pierced with pinpricks of starlight. That tunnel of silent communion between us winds through 4 blocks of city streets and up the rectory driveway, narrowing to double body width at the side entrance of the cathedral. And inside the door, we separate. I'm to serve Mass. I remove my shoes at the sacristy entrance, get the lights and scurry across red carpet in stocking feet. I find a pair of blue leather altar slippers in my size and a half-button cassock. I step inside. I slip a starched surplice that smells of ironing over my head and flatten my hair with water on my comb. I fill 1 glass cruet with water from the sink and another with sacramental wine using a glass chemist's funnel. The cruets are arranged on a small tray with a starched linen towel and carried to the table beside the altar. The sanctuary is dimly lit by a large candle that burns perpetually in a red glass casing. There's a second light, a reading lamp that casts a halo of golden light over the head of the priest reading his breviary in the altar stalls. This morning is Father Walt. I hold myself in readiness for inspection. When he's finished his prayers, he looks me over. After a tug or two at the neck of the surplice, I get the nod to go light the candles. The lighter is a wooden-handled long metal tube that holds a taper that can't be allowed to drip wax on the altar cloths. It means quick, smooth gestures, easy when there are 2 candles to light, notoriously difficult when there are the 6 larger ones for a high mass that require the use of a step stool to reach. Father Walt is the only one who likes singing this early in the morning, but today, to my relief, his Mass is a 2-candle affair. Even so, as he faces the roving table, he warbles a few scales before arranging the amice on his shoulders and looping its long ribbons across his chest, behind his back and around his waist, before tying their ends in a precisely centered perfect bow. Then the alb, bunched together, kissed over his head, smoothed down over the heavier cloth of his soutane, the braided rope of cinctures looped around his waist, tied in its own special knot. The stole is crossed over the chest, fitted in place with loops of cincture. The maniple is pinned to the sleeve. Finally, the chasuble. Father Walt is robed and wondrous to behold. When he was named chief priest at the cathedral, out went the old vestments, in came new ones, the most splendid ones in the history of Catholicism in my hometown. They're silk, satin, brocade, velvet, color-coded to the seasons and feasts and special celebrations of the liturgical year. Father Walt places a biretta on his head, puts one hand beneath the draperies of his chalice, turns, nods at me. I take my place in front of him and lead our small procession to the rear of the altar. I yank hard on the purple velvet bell rope. Father Walt likes a loud warning sounded. The organist switches from a bit of Bach to a hymn tune. We step into the sanctuary. Bodies clatter in the pews as they rise and their voices throw gravel against the melody. A row of nuns at the front find their feet and the tune as smoothly as if all their working parts were lubricated daily in 3-in-1 machine oil. I don't sing. I use the processional as a breathing space, a time in which I can remind myself of all the actions I must do. Today I'm doing double duty. The second altar boy overslept. My Latin is already on my tongue. In troibo ad altare Dei, Father Walt says. Ad Deum qui litificac ium ventitum meum, I respond. It means to God who gives joy to my youth. I said those words hundreds, thousands of times. Saying it did not make it come true.
I am a roving roving journeyman, I rove from town to town. Whenever I get a job or work, I'm willing to sit down. My kettle on my shoulder and me grafting tool in hand. Around the country I will go, roving journeyman. But when I come to Glasgow town, the lasses jump for joy. One says I'm the other, now comes a roving boy. One treats me to a bottle and the other to a dram. Toast around the table goes to the journeyman. The Lintonaddy tour and Addy Lintonaddy, eh? Me pots and pans and helping hands will see you through the day. A Lintonaddy tour and Addy Lintonaddy, eh? Give a penny to the journeyman to help him on his way. I hadn't been in Glasgow town a week or barely 3 when the provost daughter went and fell in love with me. She asked me for to dine with her and took me by the hand. She proudly told her mother that she loved the journeyman. Ach, away you go, you silly maid, I'll hear you speak no more. How can you love the journeyman you've never seen before? Well, the sweet to do and treat to love him all I can. Around the country I will go to see my journeyman. With Lintonaddy tour and Addy Lintonaddy, eh? Me pots and pans and helping hands will see you through the day. A Lintonaddy tour and Addy Lintonaddy, eh? Give a penny to the journeyman to help him on his way. You needn't trudge no more, on foot you'll have a horse and pair. We wealth with thee in poverty, contented I will share. Overflow the flow and bowl and drain it if you can. Toast the provost daughter and the roving journeyman. I am a roving journeyman, a rove from town to town. Whenever I get a job or work, I'm willing to sit down. My kittle on my shoulder and me grafting tool in hand. Around the country I will go, a roving journeyman. We'll Lintonaddy tour and Addy Lintonaddy, eh? When me pots and pans and helping hands will see you through the day. A Lintonaddy tour and Addy Lintonaddy, eh? Give a penny to the journeyman to help him on his way. Lean out your window, golden hair. I hear you singing in the midnight air. My book is closed now, I read no more. Watching the fire dance on the floor. I've left my book, I've left my room. I heard you singing through the gloom, singing and singing a merry air. Lean out your window, golden hair.
When the penguins inherit the earth, they'll do it without hands. Instead, with gestures, a head turned, gaze over the shoulder. No, not meek at all. First, when the museums closed, they wandered cautious, wings thrown open through the exhibits, patter their feet on the untouched floors. Still, in the aquarium, this is a world behind glass. In the gift shop, the rockhopper pair can wonder at the stuffed jellyfish, the plastic octopus, the string trailing a starfish. Some planet this is, of wood and steel and concrete. The penguins will let themselves out. A body will accept the cold, the tenement fire, the human constructions, a shoulder. The penguins will watch from the rooftops, illuminated. The wars and quarrels, the doomsday preppers, all forgotten. Tonight, you sit barefoot at the edge of the penguins. Quiet, darling, no regrets. And my second poem is about the wild horses of Kashmir. The wild horses of Kashmir are visiting my dreams. I've been dreaming about the horses of Kashmir, in full sprint, braying at the abandoned streets, a charcoal and rust-colored colony of wayward girls. They came to take back their mountain mouths, take the city in motion. The Zanaskari photographed, grazing in front of a stadium in Srinagar, like Sunday strollers in the park. I can't shake them. They whinny over storms at my window. Think of the muscle and sinew of something wild, while I curl into the divot of my couch and open a paperback, where I doodle an apocalypse over and over. I learned to love eggplant, while my neighbor takes up bootlegging in the recycling bin. Spray the kitchen with vinegar and peppermint oil to deter the ants that have marched in. This scorched earth has left mountain goats in the walkways, elk in the front yard, and jackals in the parks of Tel Aviv. In Montreal, wild turkeys roost on the spiral staircases of Saint Laurent Boulevard. We retreat, and they come to pasture in the roundabouts, the empty canals and crosswalks. We serve grief and lethargy to a city where the pigeons don't even sing. We slink beneath a carapace, find solitude as deep as the bottom of the sea. I'd rather be a horse. Roaming ghost towns between long, busy rivers. They come to these empty streets to tell me of every quiet thing I could live through, that I am feral. In my heart of hearts, I'll be free again, to run the trails and sprint to catch the subway, to lay with the peacocks in the grass. The horses tell me of the untamed filly of my nature, that we share both the concrete and the canyon, the overgrown gardens, the studio apartment, and also the wide, unswept fields in bloom. Thank you.
Answer me this. Well, and so, I have said it all. Is it not enough? All the sharp words blunted, were they not enough? The idle engine chuckling, was it not sufficient? And the frozen badlands kicking me in the tucked chin, were they not allowed to shut me up? No. Go get your head examined, she said, in the flowering embers. Fireside chatty she was, head inclined, hair all furry, hat askew she was, piece of amber she was. I'll ask you the same, I said. And why should I fill up her space for her? Tell me that. Before all this, I was never that way. It pressured up. Funny enough, that's what I expected. The comeuppance of it, that I got. Those were the days of honey and aspirin and any kind of beetle juice. Are they all gone now? Answer me that. Is it to lament at our watching and cowering? Is it to be still at our aloning and shushing? Is it to be spiking fevers at our vigilance and philosophizing? Answer me. Used to be, I could write with a whole clatter behind me, but now, tear open a flimsy bag in the same room and I will shoot you a look. I'm trying to make sense, I will say. On the flat wasteland, the car has broken down. Sitting on a red tartan blanket, my dad will look at me like I'm daft. My mom will raise her thermos cup lid to me on its little handle, and good luck to you, she'll say. Slices of turf are stacked by the road, molten wet like phosphorus, a metal so soft you can slice it with a dinner knife. And the careful wind tickling at my nose will be pointing to where the sense is hiding. Because wasn't I wild with excitement that day to discover at the school chemistry bench, those little gray slabs on the dish were not a butter of sorts. They were metal at room temperature. And if I were at a different temperature, what would I be? Pigeon wing, salt wave, lion's claw, Rumpelstiltskin awakening to a
Bid adieu, adieu, adieu. Bid adieu to girlish days. Happy love is come to woo thee, and all thy girlish ways. The zone that doth become thee fair, the snood upon thy yellow hair. Bid adieu, 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 adieu to girlish days. When thou hast heard his name upon the bugles of the cherubim, begin thou softly to sound my girlish bosom unto him, and softly to undo the snood that is the sign of maidenhood. Bid adieu, 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 adieu to girlish days.
Ever since Pastor Randy Clark arrived from Missouri to hold his first prayer meeting at the Airport Vineyard, a storefront church in a strip mall in the industrial belt near Pearson International, a spirit revival has gripped Toronto. Apologists for the laughing, weeping, jerking, leaping, collapsing Lion of Judah roaring, soul-searching, rocking and rolling, slain in the spirit participants tell us that all of this joyful noise is divinely ordained confirmation of a prophecy that Toronto is to become the new Jerusalem, a place of miracles and wonders, from which spiritual blessings will spread like wildfire to the four corners of the earth before the second coming of Christ. They call it the Toronto blessing. When I was growing up in Saskatchewan, some of the people in my neighborhood believed they were living in God's promised land. I don't mean Tommy Douglas and the CCF, who clearly understood that the New Jerusalem had to be built by blood, sweat, and tearing down capitalism. I mean the people of the latter rain movement. This was a religious phenomenon that erupted among a small group of Christians in North Battleford in 1948, spread throughout the province, and had large repercussions elsewhere. I really didn't want to see firsthand what hold this offspring of the latter rain had on my old acquaintance from the seminary. So I opted instead to give the rest of Toronto a closer once-over and see for myself if I could find any other signs of Jerusalem the Golden within it. But Canada's capital of multinational capitals seemed to have taken several giant steps closer to becoming a three-tiered purgatory than a 12-gated city. Downtown, the glittering towers seemed to be sucking more juice out of the city. Uptown, the part of the inner city west of the university belonging to the technically well-qualified, had another kind of golden glow, the aroma of the bistro coffee that keeps employed but not particularly empowered professionals busily clicking at their keyboards. The rest of the city looked even more consumption-consumed than ever. Contemplating stressed and bitter faces of subway riders and eavesdropping on conversations, I sensed escalating unrest, increasing repression, a heavier police presence, more racism, less community activism, a greater tightness in the throat about immigration. Toronto seemed more Chicago in the making than Jerusalem on the Humber.
Last night I lay a-sleeping, there came a dream so fair. I stood in old Jerusalem beside the temple there. I heard the children singing, and ever as they sang, methought the voice of angels in heaven an answer rang. Methought the voice of angels in heaven an answer rang. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, lift up your gates and sing. Hosanna in the highest, Hosanna to your King. And then methought the dream was changed, the streets no longer rang. Hushed were the glad hosannas, the little children sang. The sun grew dark with mystery, the morn was cold and chill, as the shadow of a cross arose upon a lonely hill. As the shadow of a cross arose upon a lonely hill. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, hark how the angels sing. Hosanna in the highest, Hosanna to your King. And once again the scene was changed, new earth there seemed to be. I saw the holy city, beside the tideless sea. The light of God was on its streets, the gates were open wide, and all who would might enter, and no one was denied. No need of moon or stars by night, or sun to shine by day. It was the new Jerusalem that would not pass away. It was the new Jerusalem that would not pass away. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, sing for the night is o'er. Hosanna in the highest, Hosanna forevermore. Hosanna in the highest, Hosanna forevermore.
I have a crow to pick with you. What for? Oh, you're the innocent Amy. I've heard that you write for the Daily Express. I would be ashamed to write for a rag such as that. I never took you to be a West Briton. Now, at that point, in the midst of this beautiful audition that I was doing for the Dead, who stops me but the director, Mr. John Huston? And he says, I think you're playing very loose and screwy with my script. And I said, how can I be playing loose with the script when I'm quoting verbatim from The Dead, written by Mr. James Joyce in 1914. Can you imagine that? But then, at that point, who do you think walks in but his daughter, Miss Angelica Huston? You know her, Angelica. And she's carrying a huge cage. And she's delighted because her pets from America have just gotten out of quarantine. And I said, what are they at when they're at home? And she said, I'll show you. She opens the cage and I look in. What do you think is in there, Dennis? What do you think? Two chipmunks.
Tim Finnegan lived down Walking Street, an Irish gentleman mighty odd. He had a beautiful brogue, both rich and sweet, and to rise in the world he carried a heart. Now Tim had a bit of the tippling way, with the love of the liquor poor Tim was born. Help him on his work each day, he'd a drop of the creature every morn. Whack full of tar and dance to your partner, well the floor your trotters shake. Isn't it the truth I tell you, lots of fun at Finnegan's way. One morning Tim was rather full, his head felt heavy which made him shake. Fell from his ladder and broke his skull, they carried him home, his corpse to wake. They rolled him up in a nice clean sheet and they laid him out upon the bed. The gallon of whiskey at his feet and a barrel of porter at his head. Whack full of tar, I'll dance to your partner, well the floor your trotters shake. Wasn't it the truth I told you, lots of fun at Finnegan's way. His friends assembled at the wake and Mrs. Finnegan called for lunch. First they brought in tea and cake, pipes, tobacco and whiskey punch. Old Biddy O'Brien began to cry, such a nice clean corpse did you ever see? Tim Mavernine, why did you die? Or hold your God, said Paddy McGee. Whack full of tar and dance to your partner, well the floor your trotters shake. Isn't it the truth I told you, lots of fun at Finnegan's way. O'Connor took the job, old Biddy shed see she's run, I'm sure. Biddy gave her a belt and a gob and left her sprawling on the floor. Then Sybil would it soon engage us, woman to woman and man to man. Shillelagh law was all the rage, and around a ruction soon began. Wag full of doll, well dance to your partner, well the floor your trotter shake. Isn't it the truth I told you? Lots of fun at Finnegan's Way. Then Mickey Maloney raised his head when a bucket of whiskey flew at him. It missed and falling on the bed, the liquor scattered over Tim. Tim revives, see how he rises, Timothy rising from the bed. Say, whirl your whiskey around like blazes, thunder in Jesus, do you think I'm dead? Whack for you die and dance to your partner, belt the floor your trotter shake. Wasn't it the truth I told you? Lots of fun at Finnegan's Way. Whack for you die and dance to your partners, belt the floor your trotter shake. Wasn't it the truth I told you? Lots of fun at Finnegan's Way.